motivates you to go to an event like this? What brings you out?
You know, I've been so lucky to have had the experience I've had during my life. And, you know, part of it is personal, part of it's professional, but then there's an enormous, I think, public trust and sense of responsibility. And the experiences I've had are intensely personal, but at the same time, I think there's value in them. And so what do you do with that experience? And I decided to write a couple books about it. One, a book of ideas, that it's in 20 languages, that book, all around the world. A book of images, where we donate all our profits to the Red Cross, because I think it's important for people to actually see the world for what it truly is. But in addition to that, I work with schools all the time. I'm speaking to a bunch of school kids today to try and let them see the opportunities that exist for them, to talk about the life, the extreme life that an astronaut has, because when you look at it, it tends to maybe have some lessons that are useful for everyone. And then I tie in with schools using Skype and things on a regular basis. I teach at university. So to me, all of that, in fact, the music album that I have coming out as well, to me, it's all part of the same piece. And that is to try and share and wring as much benefit as we possibly can out of the experiences that I've been lucky enough to have.
Now, one thing I wanted to get your take on, the discovery of the liquid on Mars. Mm-hmm. What was your reaction to that?
We've known there was water on Mars for a long time, because even one of the Canadian experiments helped prove that there's water ice locked up in the poles. But there's a big difference between frozen water and actual flowing water. And to see flowing water, even though that's no guarantee of life, anywhere on Earth that there's flowing water, there's life. You know, it's just, it's one of our prerequisites. Now, that's pretty salty water there, and the temperatures are very cold, but it's like one step closer to finding out if we're alone in the universe or not. And it maybe makes Mars, even with the movies like The Martian and things, seeing flowing water makes Mars even more alluring as a destination, not just for robots to go and sort of slowly move around, but actually for people to go and have a look. It's a really fascinating and thought-provoking discovery.
Yeah, what do you sort of see as the future of space exploration or space travel in general in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, exploration doesn't stop. I mean, we're all explorers. Just look at a one-year-old. You know, we learn to walk before we learn to talk, and that's because we need to physically explore just to develop as a species. You have to go do things directly to truly understand, and exploration all around the surface, exploration under the ocean, and exploration in space is all the same. And we're always just limited by technology, you know, and before we invented navigation and sailing ships and the wheel and steam engines and airplanes, and, you know, it's slowly allowed us to explore the whole world. And for the last 50 years, we've invented things that allow us to start exploring vertically. And so there's nothing magical about it, it's just normal. And we've been living on the space station for the last 15 years, just 1 month shy of 15 years. So that's like permanent habitation off of the Earth. We left Earth in November of 2000. And I think from there we'll go to the moon, just sort of like we went to Antarctica for the last 100 years, set up a semi-tended research station, then a permanent research station on the moon. And eventually we'll have invented enough things that we could maybe take the chance of going as far away as Mars. There's no big rush to it. It's just a natural progression of using the best of our technology to explore. So my best guess, space station for another 10 or 15 years, and then the moon for a generation or two, depending how fast we invent things, and then eventually Mars and beyond.
Cool. Now switching gears, what made you want to release an album? I know you played music up in space, and so what was the motivation behind that?
I've been a musician my whole life. I've fronted bands for the last 20 years, played in pubs and festivals and things. I've written a bunch of music. There's a Canadian guitar up on the space station, actually. It's a Larry Vey, made here in the Valley. And I'm a musician and a songwriter, so I knew when I was on the spaceship, if I got any spare time, I was going to play that guitar. And I thought I should try and not just take pictures and not just think about it, but try and write some music to help understand the experience. And over my 5 months up there, in amongst everything else, I wrote about 15 songs or so. And I just did a real simple recording of them, just voice and guitar, just using GarageBand on an iPad, but with independent tracks. So I have these recordings, and I haven't done anything with them. It's been 2 years since I got back. And I just sort of like the photographs. I thought this is stupid not to release, unless let people have a listen to it or a look at it. And so I started working with Warner Music in Canada, hired Robbie Lakritz, who's a great producer, and we didn't touch my voice, we didn't touch my guitar. That's done in Space, and the songwriting. And then he just put instrumentals underneath, sort of like I did with the Space Oddity cover that I did. And the album's called Space Sessions, Songs from a Tin Can. And it's a complete work of art from someplace beyond Earth, which the first time it's ever happened. And it's sort of like another way to explain what it's like up there. And all my profits from the album go to music education in Canada. It's not something to cash in. It is, to me, one more way to try and let people see what it's like in this early stages of leaving Earth, what it's like to live off the planet for part of your life, and the perspectives that it brings. And I'm really delighted with how the music came out too. We got some wonderful studio musicians that put stuff in I never would have thought of, but it's really made the music lovely and full.
And that's released on the 9th?
That album comes out October 9th. Yeah, it drops. There's been pre-orders and things up to this point, and there's been a couple pre-release tracks, but it comes out October 9th.
Yeah, no. What does that Abbotsford look like from space? I know you mentioned you have...
One other thing about music, I'm performing with the Vancouver Symphony in the springtime, I think around April 1st. Music that I wrote and that I wrote with my brother. Well, some of the music is also on the album, but yeah, I perform with symphonies in the East, and this will be the first time I perform with the Vancouver Symphony. And it's a lovely way to tell the story as well, because there can be visuals, tell some stories, play music with the symphony. It makes for a really full, I don't know, sensory assault of an evening. And Abbotsford from space.
You have a little bit of history here too.
I have. Well, I lived in Victoria. My mother-in-law lives in Victoria. I did basic training in Chilliwack, just up the valley a little ways. And here at Abbotsford, of course, with the airport, I've been coming to air shows here for a lot of my life. And I flew a historic jet here back a few years ago, an F-86. I flew in formation with the Snowbirds, you know, part of the show, and flew all around the inlet and everything. So I've done a lot of flying over the city and over Abbotsford. From space, when you get up above, you can really see what a river delta this is, how the Fraser comes in skinny and then spreads and has filled the whole valley, made it so lush, made it so desirable to live in. You can really see that. And then superimposed on 15,000 years of sedimentation here since the Ice Age, you can see how people have moved in and how it's changed the geography of land. You can see the reservoirs just hidden up in the hills, you know, that are feeding the water. You can see all the branches of the roads. It's you know, it's sort of like Google Earth, but it's so much richer when you see it with your naked eyes, because the seasons change and the textures change, and it's a real good understanding. Of course, not just the Fraser Valley and Abbotsford, but you get to know the whole world that way.
Now, I know we're almost coming up on November. You've got a great mustache, obviously one of Canada's best mustaches. What Movember tips do you have?
So I've had a mustache since my 18th birthday, and I've been working with Movember for several years, including from space. I think it's a great way to raise fund for men's health, of course, for a lot of the different issues that men face, including prostate cancer. But it's just kind of fun. Everybody, all men are born with the innate ability to grow a mustache, and why not once a year, you know, see how your mustache comes in. To me, if the person that you spend time with likes you in a mustache, wear a mustache. And my wife likes me with a mustache, and I've only shaved it off once, and she did not like how I looked. So the mustache stays. But heck, well, you know, once a year, grow a goatee, you know, grow a beard, see how it looks, think about it. Cut your hair short, cut your hair long, doesn't really matter. But I think it's a really fun idea, and it's really caught on, and it serves a good purpose. So it's just, and besides, it's something to laugh at someone who otherwise looks pretty good. If they got a bad looking mustache, it gives you 1 month of the year to pick on them.
Do you shave it in October and then regrow it, or it's just...
No, my wife is not impressed with me with no mustache, so the mustache stays.
Okay. And now one last thing. I know you're a sports guy. What are your thoughts on Babcock now on the Leafs? I'm a sports reporter, so I just wanted your take. How do you think they're going to do this year?
So I've been a Leafs fan since I I was a kid. My great-grandfather was a trainer for the Leafs, actually, so there's no choice. And when I first started becoming aware of hockey, they were the world's best team, and they were winning every year. So I'm not going to change allegiances just because they've had a 48-year dry spell or one rough lifetime. But actually, I really thought what they were lacking in the last couple of years was extremely high caliber, respected leadership. They've got a lot of talent on the team. They've got some really strong personalities, and Babcock is a great move. And I think what the owners of the team signaled partway through the year was, hey, we would really like you to come and coach this team. And everything he's said has been really positive. He's thrilled to be coaching the Leafs. And the only time I've met him was in Toronto Airport, and it was so nice. There was this young couple that wasn't from Canada who was kind of lost, and he'd actually stopped to help them in the airport to show them directions of where they could go to get on the international flight. And I thought, here's a visually recognizable guy, a famous guy, all kinds of pressure, expectation, but obviously he's a nice guy as well. And so I got high hopes. I don't expect they're going to suddenly become the best team in the league in 1 year just because of a coach, but it's definitely a huge positive move, and hopefully there'll be enough stability over a few years to really build something, because obviously the fan base is there, the support base is there, and hopefully with his leadership we'll make the evolution to become a championship team.
What's next for you now?
I do a lot of different things. I'm hosting a show in Toronto at Massey Hall called Generator, which is a science and comedy show on the 28th of October, which should be a really interesting thing. Make people laugh, but also think. I'm developing a series, a cartoon series on YouTube called It's Not Rocket Science, which is a history of science, sort of an educational thing. I work with schools all the time. I teach at the University of Waterloo. I'm on the Space Advisory Board for the country, so when the next government comes in, we'll be helping them shape space policy. Writing a third book. There's lots of things going on. And I do a lot of speaking all around the world on ideas and how to make the most of what you're given, how to put together a team to do things that are really complex, and how to achieve stuff that is right on the edge of impossible, like building a spaceship or challenging yourself to do something that may not even have existed when you were a kid. A lot of the talks I give, of course, are to help communities raise funds or for good causes. And Habitat for Humanity, I've spoken for them before, their fundamental purpose is so good. It's good for society to recognize that some people just need that threshold up. If you can just get them out of a set of circumstances into another set of circumstances, suddenly they can flourish. It happens in the plant world and in animals. You see it all the time, and of course it works for people if we can just organize ourselves. And what humanity does, especially the Upper Fraser Valley, is they're just a huge enabler. They work with other organizations to provide things to them if they need it. People donate both things and money. They donate time, which of course is one of the most precious things, and they have helped so many families here in this part of Canada, but all around the world as well. And so for me to help them raise funds tonight, I'm proud to be asked.